today's episode of Let's Talk, Tim Walter, house healer and alternative life coach, talks about his mentor Hamish Miller, who in his mid-50s had a near-death experience. One of the things that we haven't yet explored, but I think it'd be worth exploring, is Hamish Miller. I think it is, isn't it? Who's your mentor? Tell us a little bit about how you first met him and how that led you on your journey.
Hamish Miller, he passed away in 2010. Unfortunately, I knew him for 7 years. I met him in 2003. There's the maths. Hamish Miller was, without any doubt whatsoever, the most warm-hearted and generous and fantastic person I've ever met. He was quite extraordinary. He was extraordinary because of his generosity and because of his humility. Now, Hamish, in his younger days, was an award-winning businessman. He ran a very successful furniture design and manufacture business in Sussex until he was in his mid-50s. And when he was in his mid-50s, he had I was going to say heart attack. He didn't have a heart attack. He had to go into hospital for a very acute issue that he had, primarily, again, driven through stress and overwork and all this sort of thing. And he was on the operating table, and he died. So he had a near-death experience. Now in that, he obviously went upstairs and met the management, as he called them. And again, his description of that NDE is one of the videos on my YouTube channel. Now that changed his life completely and utterly. And as he says, it took that kind of experience for him to kind of get the message, get the spiritual message, get to understand that there was more to life than what he had been doing. Because he always said he was so stubborn and so ingrained in his ways that nothing short of dying was actually going to make him change his life. So, there we go. He moved from Sussex. He had to abandon the whole business. It went under. He was forced to close the business. He went down to Cornwall, where he had a little bit of land, and he decided to do what he had wanted to do since he was 8 years old, which was to become a blacksmith. And that's what he did. And so when I met him, he was a blacksmith. But he was also the co-author of a book called The Sun and the Serpent. And The Sun and the Serpent is a journal, if you like, about how him and a guy called Paul Broadhurst spent 10 years tracing earth energy lines from Marazion in Cornwall right across the southeast of England to leave the coast in Suffolk. And they went up and down this line. There was the Michael alignment is the straight kind of ley line alignment that follows and goes through sacred sites. What Hamish and Paul rediscovered was the twisting earth energies that twist and serpentine with their way up that line and hit these sacred sites absolutely on the nose, and many churches on their way as well, of course. And those two lines are called Michael and Mary because one feels far more masculine, one feels far more feminine. So that was really the thing that Hamish was famous for. When I met him, I asked him if I really wanted to ask him, to get into to do some television work, because I thought at the time, this was just after we'd moved into the house, and so therefore my world was exploding around me. And I thought, well, everybody's going to be interested in this earth energy stuff, so let's do some television. And of course, that was my big grounding moment when I realized that actually television was not about what's good for people. It's about, what follows the company line and what should we be telling the masses. And what we should not be telling the masses is about their own power, to link into their creator. So Hamish was very, very passionate about trying to spread the word about dowsing in particular as a way of accessing the intuition and connecting to the management. And I was really in line with that. And so we did several little video programs, and I spent on and off those last 7 years of his life. And he knew that he was going because he had a heart condition at the end. And he, in working with an author, a guy called Nigel Twyn, who wrote Hamish's biography, he said in one of those interviews, I know my time is up soon, but I'm quite looking forward to it. So he meant to go and meet the management once again. And he always felt that he'd left a part of himself upstairs when he came back from that NDE. So he was very, very sensitive to subtle energies around us. He was massively influential on me in so many ways, and I miss him dearly. But he also was very, very grounded, and he also said, never take yourself too seriously. And if there's anything that I'm going to put on my gravestone, it's going to be, never take yourself too seriously, because it's just not worth it.
In this last segment, what I normally do is I ask my guests if there's anything they would like to have said that I haven't given you the opportunity to say at this point, just to close our interviews.
The thing I want to make very, very clear is, and what struck me this morning in trying to say about Jane appearing in the house, right? So when we moved into this house and we discovered that there was this lady called Jane living there, this deceased lady, it actually seemed like a very, very ordinary thing to discover. It didn't seem like it was a big deal. It didn't seem like it was, oh, we've got a ghost living in the house. How scary is this? It just seemed like a matter-of-fact, day-to-day thing. And that really is the way that the really big changes come into your life, because that is what life is about. It's about allowing circumstance, allowing the reality in which you live to have some input on how you respond to it. So in the Taoist way, right, the ancient Taoists would play a game with their reality. The ancient priests of that time, and they weren't called priests, but you know what I mean, this is the Far East of thousands of years ago. They would play a game with their reality by trying to make a decision that would completely off the reality that the God, the great Tao, wouldn't expect them to make. So they were to make a last-minute decision and try and kind of throw reality off its balance. Now they did that because, as far as they were concerned, that's what the great Tao, that's what reality, that's what God was doing to them. So this game of ping pong of, we make a decision, reality comes back with an answer. We make a decision, reality comes back with an answer. Of course, this is all now used in manifestation technique. In people like Wayne Dyer used to talk about this massively. Oprah Winfrey, she's always talking about manifesting your own reality. Now, yeah, sure, it works, but also it doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. There is no formula for this stuff. Because it's us as co-creators, it's what the divine plan is. Anyway, we can't ignore the existence of a greater intelligence or an influence upon our lives, or so that has to be the G word. It has to be God or the universe, whatever expression you want to use. But there's also the mechanism for it is earth energy. I have no doubt about that. Earth energy is really crucial to the way that our minds interact with the physical reality that we experience out here. Now, that's one big thing that we haven't touched on really, but that is the mechanism of it. That's the mechanics of it. And there's also a small percentage of chance, of chaos, of randomness, because none of those things, even God, has an element of the unknown within it. And otherwise we wouldn't exist. Partly we're here to explore and to try to find out for the universe, for God, what the chuff's going on. We are an expression of it, trying to experience on this level in the physical dimension and an emotional dimension too. So there is no one way to kind of tick the box and say, oh yeah, I've got life sussed. And to try to look for it and to say, yes, there is a recipe for mental breakdown. And all we can do really is to share what we each individually experience and say, well, I've found this helpful. This is my philosophy on life. This is my belief system. This belief system works for me. Why don't you try it? If it doesn't work for you, that's fine. If it doesn't resonate with you, don't accept it. It doesn't matter. And the more that we share our uniqueness and accept other people's uniqueness, then actually the greater the abundance is that in the experience that we call life. Right now, we've got the opposite effect, where we shut down everything that's different. And part of that goes right back to this empirical thinking. If it's out of alignment, if it doesn't fit into this box, then it's no good. Chuck it out. And that is being fueled all the time. And that's where a lot of our seeming global issues, and I say seeming because we have to bear in mind that this is illusory anyway, but our lessons for living are in this illusion. Because what we learn in this lifetime and many others is what we then take forward within that realm that we live in once we have passed over from this dimension.
Tim, that's been brilliant actually talking to you, and the philosophies that you've been sharing with us today are actually very profound and worth listening to and worth sharing. So thank you very much for your time today on Let's Talk.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
We have more on the way, so please subscribe to this channel and check out the link below if you'd consider becoming a patron to help us keep making more content. Thanks for watching.